Once upon a time, there was a young man who worked at a job doing what he loved, talking about toys. Every day he went to work, sold his widgets, made money, and came home to his great life. One day, he made a mistake that cost him everything. Because of that, he lost friends, had no money, and was forced to start all over again from the bottom. Because of that, he had to learn new skills, meet new people, and prepare for new and amazing adventures. Until finally, he saw that his new life was the one he had wanted all along, and that everything that had happened to him up until this point was preparing him for this. Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode 89. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Empowered Podcast. I want to just give you a breath of fresh air today. I want to give you some encouragement that you can do almost anything. But before we get to that point, before we can get to the all roses and no thorns, we have to go through the rough spots. And we have to look at where we are and get a realistic view at why we are where we are in life, whether we want to be where we are or we want to be somewhere maybe a little bit different. We have to take a look at that, and we're going to do that first, and then we will wrap up with some motivation that will hopefully get you going, because as my wife Ashley pointed out, if you're listening to this live, we're right here in the big middle of June 2015. The year is almost half over. And if you, like most people, set out at the beginning of the year in January to do something different, to lose weight, go to the gym, start a blog, start a podcast, change your life, how are those things coming? How have you progressed towards those goals? And I want to encourage you to go after them and really look at the world with a fresh set of eyes, that the possibilities really are open to you if you are willing to go out there and attack them and tackle them and go after the dreams that you want to achieve. And just a little bit of a disclaimer before we go into that, I don't think that we can be anything that we want to be. People are built. People are designed and born with certain skills and abilities that will naturally make them better than some other people. Sure, I could go to, the basketball court here in the community. I could pick up a ball and start playing basketball, but that wouldn't make me, really a basketball player. I could never be at the same level as someone who was born with those gifts. And I want to encourage you to find what your gifts are and to go after them. One last thing before we go into the episode, you're probably on your phone right now. Just judging from, download numbers and statistics on the website and everything, you're probably on your phone. If you are, go to your phone app, go to the little dialer, and I want you to text PM15 event, PM15 event to 770-770-4377. If you're here in the United States, which I know most people are, I want you to text PM15 event to 770-770-4377. I'm hosting an event at Podcast Movement. If you're going to be in the Fort Worth area, even if you're attending the conference or not, because I know I'll have a lot of friends and listeners in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we will be at Podcast Movement that first weekend in August, and I'm going to be sending out special invitations to people. And if you're listening to this, I would love to meet you in person if I haven't already. So text to 773-770-4377. It's a new tool that there was one right there. Maybe, probably not. Text that PM15 event, no spaces or anything, to that number. I'm testing out a new text message tool, and I would love to see you there. So let's go right into it today. A few weeks ago, I was listening to a podcast interview between Tim Ferriss and Glenn Beck. and two somewhat polar opposite people. Glenn Beck has been a very conservative, outspoken radio host, TV host, and then, of course, Tim Ferriss, who is famous for writing the 4-Hour Workweek. And I was listening to an interview between those two people, and Glenn Beck used the phrase self-imposed ignorance. And that phrase stuck in my mind. This was a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, and I haven't been able to shake this idea of self-imposed ignorance out of my head. And I immediately knew then, even though I haven't written or podcasted about it, I immediately knew that the concept intrigued me. And the more I thought about it, the more weight the phrase began to have in my mind. And self-imposed means that we did this to ourselves. We imposed it on ourselves. And ignorance means the lack of knowledge or understanding. And it doesn't mean stupid, or it doesn't mean, all those things that you might have in your head. It just means a lack of knowledge or understanding. I am ignorant to what Ashley has studied about the heart. She has studied way more than me, and I am ignorant to those facts. It's just the way that it is, and any sort of negative connotation that word has to us really is just our own background and our own filters being placed on that. But together, those two things mean that we don't know because we choose not to. If there's something out there in the world that we don't know, it's because we have chosen not to know it. And at every point in our development, wherever we are in our life, at every turn, we have had to learn something new. When it was time to learn how to walk, we had to learn how to do that. When it was time to learn how to speak, we had to learn how to do that. When we went to a social gathering the first time in kindergarten, we had to learn how to behave around other people, or it was probably much younger than that. But we had to learn how to do something. And if we don't learn, we don't grow. And if we don't learn to walk, we're destined to crawl in the dirt. And if we don't learn how to communicate with other people, we can do little more than just use our fists. So you can see how every turn along our life, whether it was getting that first job, getting that first date, buying your first house or car, we have had to learn how to do something new. And if we had a goal but do nothing to achieve it, it's really nobody's fault but our own. And the knowledge and resources that are out there to help us do whatever it is that we want to do, they're out there. And it doesn't matter that we don't know how to get there, wherever we decide that there is. That's the point. You can think of all of these famous explorers. They didn't know what necessarily was on the other side of the horizon for them. Let's think about astronauts for a second. I'm reading or listening to The Martian, which is being turned into a movie later this year with Matt Damon, and you're talking about astronauts. And when you think about astronauts, I mean, that's just like deep sea diving. I mean, those are the ultimate frontiers of not knowing, but preparing and going and doing anyway. Because again, it doesn't matter that we don't know how to get there. That's the point. And if we never achieve what we want to achieve because we don't know how, that is completely on us. It's on me, and it's on you, and it's on nobody else. Our ignorance is self-imposed. And again, I'm not calling you ignorant. I'm not calling myself ignorant. I'm just saying ignorance, again, is the lack of knowing or understanding. But the good news, here's the good news. The good news, or even the great news, is that we can do something about it. And I mentioned before that I will never be a fantastic basketball player. I was designed to do something different, and you can't do anything that you want, but you can do everything that you can put your mind to and set out to achieve. And eliminate this possibility of limiting our potential because of self-imposed ignorance. Now, I want to encourage you to do an exercise with me. Now, we talked a second ago about texting from your phone. If you're on your phone, you probably can't do this, but this is a technique that I picked up from the book To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. And in that book, I know this just because I was just looking at it. It's on page 169. If you have the book, on your bookshelf at home or something like that. He talks about the Pixar pitch. And he talks about Pixar, the guys that made Finding Nemo and some of these famous movies. He talks about this formula that they have for their movies, and something like a third to a half of their movies have been wildly successful, like getting Oscars, getting whatever other trophies that you can getting awards and things, all because they have outlined their story in this way. And when then they go to pitch this new story, like Finding Nemo, for example, to a movie producer to see if it will get picked up and funded, they follow this pitch. They take this story, they condense it down into this formula, and it helps them be concise and clearly share their message. So I was reading this book, To Sell is Human, with some of my coaching clients and some of my mastermind groups, and I got to this point, and I wanted everybody to share their Pixar pitch. So today, I want to share a couple of my Pixar pitches, and maybe it'll help you understand what I'm coming from, and all in the context of this self-imposed ignorance, this ability to do anything that we want, and to also share your story, because if I've talked to you one-on-one, I've probably encouraged you to tell your story. That our story is one of the things that we downplay more than almost anything else, but it's one of the most powerful, most encouraging things that we can share about ourselves, because the story is what connects us with other people. So I wanted to share with you a couple. I ended up doing 3 Pixar pitches, but I will share 2 more of you. The first one, the Once Upon a Time that we opened with, was the third one that I did, but I want to share the first 2. But here's the formula. It is and you fill in the blanks. So it's once upon a time, and then every day, and then one day, because of that, until finally. So it's once upon a time I did this, every day this happened, one day that happened, and because of that, this happened, because of that happened, until finally something else happened. So I'm going to fill in the blanks, give you a little bit of clarity, and you can see how that might flow with what you are doing. And then again, clarify your story and give you something that you can feel confident about sharing with other people, even if you're in a period of transition, even if you're in a period of figuring things out, because those places are okay as well. And I apologize if there is some overlap. It's my story, and of course, as with most stories that you tell from 3 different perspectives, there may be some overlap. Once upon a time, I thought I could be successful, climb the corporate ladder, and retire happy. Every day I went to work, tried hard, and had success, but ultimately got nowhere. One day, I made a phone call I shouldn't have made to get some additional training for my side business. Because of that, my boss fired me, and I was forced into entrepreneurship much earlier than I had ever planned on. Because of that, my marriage was tested. Our lifestyle changed, our futures were put into question, and I was forced to figure out how to build a profitable business. Until finally, I started to see my business grow, and I started to believe in myself and that the life I wanted was actually possible. So you see how that follows the once upon a time, every day, one day, because of that, until finally formula. Here's the second one. Again, you heard the first one at the very beginning of the episode. Here's the second one that I did. Once upon a time, I thought becoming an entrepreneur, starting my own business, and working for myself would be scary, expensive, and something I could never do. Every day, I would look at the skill set I thought I had and see someone who was no different than anyone else. One day, I realized how good I was at analyzing and researching tools and resources. Because of that, all of the studying I'd done over the past few years was now a library of information I could draw on at any time. Because of that, people started reading my reports, reviews, and analysis, and people began seeing me as a trusted resource. Until finally, I realized I could sell what I knew and help people shorten their startup time by sharing the information I'd been collecting. So those are the formulas that you don't have to have short and clear sentences, but this structure has helped Pixar become one of the most successful studios maybe in the world, at least here in the United States. And it takes a long story and brings it into a 2-minute, somewhat elevator pitch that you could share. And here's what's interesting about doing these things. As I began putting pen to paper, yes, I didn't type them in. I actually had an ink pen, and it was actually paper made from, maybe it was recycled, but at one point, a dead tree. And putting pen to paper, I started thinking about the trajectory my life has taken over the last 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 years. And by doing this, you will start to realize all of the things that have made you who you are and gotten you to this point where you are. You will look at once upon a time, you were this. I was I was a stay-at-home mom. I was working at a job that I didn't like. I was making big bucks, but overworking. Once upon a time, I had no time on my schedule that wasn't somebody else's agenda being put there. And then why you kept doing that. Every day I did this. Every day I went to work. Every day my husband or wife would go off to work and I would clean the house or whatever it is. And then one day, something happened. One day, something clicked, something changed inside, or maybe it was an event. And because of that, here are the things that have happened since then until finally, and this is at the end of the Pixar pitch, until finally Nemo found his dad or his mom or whoever it was, and they realized that, life was one big adventure or whatever it is. And by doing this process once upon a time, every day, one day, because of that, until finally, you'll begin to see this story arc that your life has taken over the last 4 to 5 years, if not maybe the last 10 years. And you'll realize one of two things. You'll realize everything that has happened or everything that you have been through has gotten you to where you are, and you'll look back with excitement, or you will look back with some frustration that only can be self-imposed frustration. Everything that has happened has gotten me to where I am, or reverse of that, I am where I am because of either the things that I haven't done or the choices that I haven't made and let somebody else make for me. Whatever it is, you can look back over the last 5, 10, 15 years and get a clear look. But maybe that clear look, maybe this exercise that you're doing with me today is that one day, is that inflection point that says, after this point, everything else changed. There was no turning back. There was a future that was different from my past. And the possibilities in front of me are open like they have never been open before. Now, up until this point, I've somewhat had some notes in front of me. I don't always have notes for podcast episodes, especially not when I'm interviewing a guest, but I had some notes. Of course, I needed to read off of those, but from here on out, no notes. I'm just talking to you, and I want to share with you something that I shared with one of my coaching clients just, 2 days ago, and he is going through the process of building his business. But even before that, he is going through the process of figuring out what it is that he can do, what he can package and sell to somebody in order to make money, to pay their rent, pay for their cars, go on trips, and at least have a semblance of, I think that's the right word, something that resembles the current life that they had before he decided to go all in and do it on his own. So I'm going to give you that piece of advice, and it's something that I've been implementing on the side of my business as well. Now, if you didn't know, a large part of my business is coaching, private mastermind groups, a membership site, and selling digital products, courses, ebooks. But another part of my business is helping entrepreneurs get started online through helping them with their websites, helping them with their email marketing, getting those things set up. And then I can also take over those things so that they can focus on what they do best. So there's kind of two parts or multiple parts to my business, but it didn't always start off that way. But I took the website and the email marketing and some of those other things, and I have taken a new approach to that, and that's the approach that I want to share with you, and that's the approach that I shared with him. When we are setting out to charge for our services, it's really easy when we go and we work for somebody else. It was for me. Of course, you know that I worked at Dell for almost 5 years, 4.5 years, and they would say this computer is $1,000 and you can discount it 20% and sell it for $800, or this server is $10,000 and you can discount it 40% and sell it for $6,000. Someone else told me the price, what I could discount it, and the ultimate price that I would deliver to the customer. And when it's your own product, when it's your greeting cards or birthday cards or the jewelry that you have made or the fitness products that you are looking to package and sell, whatever it is, and it's yours, no one is there to tell you what those products should cost unless, you've got a $10 cost and you need to make 20%, so you sell it for $12. Those kinds of things are easier, but unless you have those physical products, if it's you creating something from nothing or creating a service that you will perform, it's much more difficult. And trying to figure out what that is also pretty difficult. You might be in that phase yourself, figuring out how much you should charge to do a yard, a lawn or landscaping. You charge by the hour, you look at what your competitors are, something like that. But you have to figure out what your product is. But if you don't know, it's okay to have these side things. I want to be known for helping entrepreneurs like you get started. I want to do coaching and masterminds and create digital products and do the membership site because those are more fun, but we have to sometimes do things that also pay the bills. And when you're looking to strike out on your own or start generating income for your side business so you can show your spouse or your partner, hey, this is something that I can actually do. We can pay the bills with this. We can go out to dinner because of the work that I've been doing on the weekend or in the evenings when I go lock myself in the office. Here are the fruits of that labor. You want to be able to get to that point. And of course, this episode is all about possibility. So I want to show you a possibility. So figure out a specific need that you can meet. Now, here's how you can do that. Think of a time where you went to a restaurant or you saw someone mowing the yard or so that you saw someone painting something or doing work on a car. Figure out a time in the last couple weeks where you saw that person doing that activity and thought, they're doing it wrong, or I could do it better. If you can find a way to solve that problem and make that better and package that, you can sell it. Here's another way that you can do that, and this is the method that I've been using in my entrepreneur website and email marketing part of the business. So I get on our front door these door hangers for landscapes, for tree trimming, for house cleaning, for all of these things. People leave business cards and flyers on our front door. And most of those people don't have a website. Well, but you're a little bit more tech savvy because you're listening to a podcast right now. You and I know that if you don't have a website, you might as well not even have a business. So there you go. You have a business card that says at Gmail. That's a dead giveaway that they don't have their business, or else you would have an email address like Ellery at ElleryWelds.com. You wouldn't have Jim's Cleaning at Gmail if you had jimscleaning.com. Well, you might, but someone didn't set it up for you, which is another area that you could meet that need. So here's what else I do. I offer to help them set up a website. And it's not just they don't have a website. I look at it from the perspective of, Let's feature your work. Let's help you stand out amongst your competitors. Let's show the world how good you are at what you do. And if you can find that for your market and what you want to do, you can package and sell that to people. So let's take a third, more hypothetical example. Someone comes to you and says, man, I really don't like going to the Hallmark store or buying just these kind of uncustomized cards off the shelf at Walmart or Target. And I wish there was a way that I could get custom cards without spending a whole lot of money. And, they could have my name on them, or they could have my initials on them, and they would be very personalized cards that I could send to somebody. Well, my mother-in-law saw that, and she liked crafts. She liked doing scrapbooking and those kinds of things. She's got all the tools to make the cool things that would go on a card or a scrapbook or something like that. And she saw enough people saying, I don't like these vanilla cards that don't say anything, don't have much personality. And she combined her love for crafting and met that need. And now she has started a side business and makes money creating cards, selling scraps or scrapbooks. She doesn't sell scraps. And that's another third example. You see something that is an obvious need in the marketplace, someone who is doing something wrong, or that there's a better way, package and sell it. You see something that people don't have, and you have a way to meet that need. So you go and meet it. The third way is you see what people aren't getting as consumers. There's a gap in what they want and what the marketplace is able to provide or what they're able to find. And then you meet that need, package and sell it. And you can start getting immediate traction with this. Within a couple weeks, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to do what I did with my first coaching client, which is, research business plans and research templates on proposals and all of those kinds of things. You just go up to the person and say, hey, I could probably help you. I have a better way. I've discovered a better way, or I have a way to eliminate this pain that you're having. And you can start generating revenue and start doing these things almost immediately. And again, the possibilities are practically endless, and you can do anything. If you don't know how to do it, and you're not hanging up this phone, but you might not be on a phone. If after this episode you don't hit stop and go to Wikipedia or how to or something and try to figure out how to do it, that ignorance is self-imposed. You are doing it to yourself. And for a long time, I was doing that to myself. I was looking at what I wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve, but I wasn't doing anything to figure out how to make it happen. And I'll tell you what, I had to learn a lot of new skills when I was thrown into entrepreneurship in 2014. I would not consider myself a great marketer. I have changed my writing style since then. I have learned how to do better graphic design. I've had to learn how to create all kinds of stuff, membership sites, learn how to use new software, learn how to figure out problems, and you'll have to do some of those things as well. But had I not learned it, had I been okay with living in this state of self-imposed ignorance, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm not saying I'm across the finish line. I'm not saying this from some lofty, high mountain point. I'm saying I am where I am because I have refused to live with self-imposed ignorance, and I have gone through the process of learning how to do what I want to know how to do. Because it all comes down to this phrase that you've probably heard 100 or 1,000 times in your life. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. And that's what I want to encourage you with today. If it's going to happen, it's up to you. But that means the power and the control is in your hands, and you can adjust the trajectory your life is currently on, or take that trajectory and just throw fuel on the fire and do whatever it is that you want to do. Because it's 2015, we have more technology and more resources. We're more connected than we have ever been, and this is a great time to become an entrepreneur or flex your entrepreneurial muscles. I want to encourage you to do that as we're halfway through the year. Have you done what you set out to do at the beginning of the year? And if you have, how close to really taking 2016 by storm? I know it sounds like it's a long way away, but we're here in episode 89. 6 months ago, that would have been 26 weeks. I would have been in episode 60, and I can't imagine the difference between episode 89 and 60 something. What has happened if I were to really give a look back over the last 6.5 months? It's been an incredible journey. I hope your journey over the last 6 months has been pretty amazing too. And if you're not where you are, if you're not doing what you're doing, or at least taking steps to make that happen, I encourage you to do that today. As soon as you hang up this phone, now as soon as you wrap up this episode, as soon as you close the browser, whatever it is, I want you to take steps to start achieving your goals. And maybe that starts with signing up for my newsletter and being a part of my community. I answer questions via blog posts a lot of the time. I see questions that people ask, what is the best email marketing tool, for example, and I wrote a blog post about it. Where do you find images for blog posts that will help with SEO and help, my blogs get more shares? Well, I answered that via a post. All of my ideas come from, or at least most of my ideas come from the audience, people like you, people listening, and I try to answer those questions in a public way so that other people can benefit from your questions. So maybe that first step for you is going to ElleryWells.com and signing up for the newsletter. Maybe that next step is signing up for a trial of my membership site. Maybe it's joining my next mastermind or getting one-on-one coaching, or maybe it's having lunch with someone who's doing what you want to do, taking them out to lunch, buying them a cup of coffee, and making that connection. Or maybe it's as simple as sending that email and making that introduction. There's a world of possibilities out there for you, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. And again, one last time, if you are going to Podcast Movement, or even if you can't make it to the conference, but you will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on July 31st to August 2nd. I don't know when or where the meetup is. I don't know what the details are, but I want to meet you. I want to host an event that will connect you with other listeners and readers and members of the community. So text PM15 event. I know it's long, but it has to be a certain number of characters. Text PM15 event to 773-770-4377. So that's PM15 event to 773-770-4377. And I will add you to the list, and I will let you know when that event is, where it is, and how you can connect and meet with me and meet with other people of the other members of the community. And I hope to see you there. That would make my day. That would make the conference worth it, even more than it already is, if I got to meet you. And I would absolutely love to do that. So PM15 event 773-770-4377. Thank you for tuning into this episode 89 of the Empowered Podcast. If you decide to do a Pixar pitch, if you decide to write out once upon a time, every day, one day, because of that, until finally, if you do that for your life, send it to me. Type it up in an email, or if you write it out on paper, take a picture of it and send it to Ellery at ElleryWells.com. I'd love to read it. I'd love to see what you come up with, and I'd love to hear more about your story. So take a picture of that. Like I said, send it over to Ellery at ElleryWells.com. If you need any of the resources that we've mentioned in this episode, if you want to connect with me, check out the mastermind or the membership site, or take that first step of searching for resources, go to empoweredpodcast.com/89. And all of that will be there. If that's the only thing that you remember, empoweredpodcast.com/89. I'm your host, Ellery Wells. Go do something awesome. Share your story. We'll see you next week.